Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yata Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Scha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sabhadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Scha Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuram Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Gurava Bhishtam Supurgam Graganara Sisha Sambhushitam Chintya Chintya Samasta Veda Nipanam Shri Rupa Patanagam Govinda Bidam Ujwalam Varatanum Bhaktiyan Vidam Sundaram Vande Vishwa Gurun Shah Divyat Bhagavad Prem Noe Bija Pranam Devam Divyatanum Suchanda Varanam Balarka Chelan Shitam Sandrananda Puram Sadeka Varanam Vairagya Vidyam Buddhim Sri Siddhanta Nidhim Subhakti Lasitam Saraswatanam Baram Bandetam Shubharam Madeka Sharanam Nyashishwara Shidaram Vansha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhu Bhyevicha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Mahamaranyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauratavishe Namah. Okay, sure. So we're hearing from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, translation and commentary by Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupad. This is Adi-lila, Chapter 3, External Reasons for the Appearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In this chapter, the author has fully discussed the external reasons for the descent of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna. In this chapter, the author fully discussed the external reasons for the descent of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, after displaying his pastimes as Lord Krishna, thought it wise to make his advent in the form of a devotee to explain personally the transcendental mellows of reciprocal service and love exchange between him and his servants, friends, parents, and fiancés. According to the Vedic literature, the foremost occupational duty for humanity in this age of Kali is Nam Sankirtan, or congregational chanting of the holy name of the Lord. The incarnation for this age especially preaches this process, but only Krishna himself can explain the confidential loving service performed in the four principal varieties of loving affairs between the Supreme Lord and his devotees. Lord Krishna therefore personally appeared with his plenary portions as Lord Chaitanya. As stated in this chapter, it was for this purpose that Lord Krishna appeared personally in Navadip in the form of Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Krishnadas Kaviraj has herein presented much authentic evidence from Srimad Bhagavatam and other scriptures to substantiate the identity of Lord Chaitanya with Sri Krishna himself. He has described bodily symptoms in Lord Chaitanya that are visible only in the person of the Supreme Lord, and he has proved that Lord Chaitanya appeared with his personal associates, Sri Nityananda, Advaita, Gadadhar, Srivas, and other devotees, to preach the special significance of chanting Hare Krishna. The appearance of Lord Chaitanya is both significant and confidential. He can be appreciated only by pure devotees and only through the process of devotional service. The Lord tried to conceal his identity as the Supreme Personality of Godhead by representing himself as a devotee, but his pure devotees could recognize him by his special features. The Vedas and Puranas foretell the appearance of Lord Chaitanya, but still he is sometimes called significantly the concealed descent of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That term is Chana Avatar. hidden incarnation. Advaita Acharya was a contemporary of Lord Chaitanya's father. He felt sorry for the condition of the world because even after Lord Krishna's appearance, no one had interest in devotional service to Krishna. Thus, forgetfulness was so overwhelming that Advaita Prabhu was convinced that no one but Lord Krishna himself could enlighten people about devotional service to the Supreme Lord. Therefore, Advaita requested Lord Krishna to appear as Lord Chaitanya. Offering tulsi leaves and Ganges water, he cried for the Lord's appearance. The Lord, being satisfied by his pure devotees, descends to satisfy them. As such, being pleased by Advaita Acharya, Lord Chaitanya appeared. So there's much material here to summarize, and this chapter is dealing with the external reasons for Lord Chaitanya's appearance. So he has his external reasons, obviously, and he also has his internal reasons for wanting to appear. So here it mentions the four loving exchanges that occur between the Lord and his devotees. And those are what's called in rasas. Shanta rasa is neutrality, then dasha rasa, servitude, Vatsalya rasa is parenthood or the role of an elder relative, and then the madhurya rasa is in the relationship of a lover. Now I know there are some intimations of this sometimes in Western literature. I remember reading where the English poet John Donne, he talked about having a personal relationship with the Lord as a lover. But that's presented in a little bit of a poetic and abstruse way. But the relationship between Krishna and his devotees is a direct relationship. And there are loving exchanges that are described in the Srimad Bhagavatam. But then it's mentioned here by Srila Prabhupada that after the descent of Krishna, he had his exchanges with his devotees, but those relationships were very confidential. And although there are persons who worship Radha and Krishna, they're called Vaishnavas, the worship of the personal form of the Lord, and it's called Vaishnavism. And sometimes it's seen as worship of Radha Krishna or Lakshmi Narayan or Sita Ram. Those are all personal worships of the Lord. But even Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he mentioned when he was young, he couldn't understand the worship of Sri Sri Radha and Krishna because Krishna's activities and his pastimes are not easily understood. So in his childhood, Srila Sridhar Maharaj worshipped Sita Ram because the relations between Sita and Ram are, the Lord has one wife. He's following all the codes of religious activities. But the worship of Krishna, Radha and Krishna especially, that cannot be so easily understood. And then Srila Sridhar Maharaj said, it wasn't until he met his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur, that he could understand about the worship of Radha Krishna, because he was then able to hear about the activities of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and through understanding Mahaprabhu, one can understand Radha and Krishna. What is confidential in the pastimes of Radha and Krishna is explained by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So now we'll continue with the chapter, these are the external reasons for Lord Chaitanya's appearance. So, Sri Chaitanya Prabhum Bande Yad Padashraya Viryata Sangrinati Akararata Agya Siddhanta Sanmanin. Sri Chaitanya Prabhum Bande Yat Pradashraya Viryataha Sangrinati Akara Vratad Agya Siddhanta Sanmanin. I offer my respectful obeisances to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. By the potency of the shelter of his lotus feet, even a fool can collect the valuable jewels of conclusive truth from the minds of the revealed scriptures. So at the beginning of each chapter, there's a Sanskrit verse which explains what this chapter is dealing with, and then comes a collection of Bengali and Sanskrit verses that will confirm or show the evidence for this conclusion. Anyway, this is just, in this case, it's just a general summary or a poetic description of the chapter. I offer my respectful obeisances to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. By the potency of the shelter of his lotus feet, even a fool can collect the valuable jewels of conclusive truth from the minds of the revealed scriptures. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra, Jaya Gaurabhakta Vrinda. All glories to Lord Chaitanya, all glories to Lord Nityananda, all glories to Sri Advaita Chandra, and all glories to all the devotees of Lord Chaitanya. Tritiya Shlokara Arta Koila Bibaran, Chaturta Shlokara Arta Shuna Bhaktagan. I have given the purport of the third verse. Now, O devotees, please listen to the meaning of the fourth with full attention. So when it refers to the third and fourth verses, these are from the first chapter, and the first 14 verses are what's called Mangalacharan. In Vedic literature, the Mangalacharan has three purposes. It's giving the it's describing the purpose of the work. It's offering benedictions to the listeners, and it's offering obeisances to the Lord and his devotees. So these, first the definition of the purpose, then what is called Namaskar, or that is offering benedictions, that's offering obeisances to the Lord, and offering benedictions. Let's see. My memory fails me a little bit because of age. So this is the fourth verse. Here it says, Se Mangalacharan hoy Trivida Prakar, Bastu Nirdesha Asirbad, Namaskar. The invocation, which is the first chapter, the invocation involves three processes. Defining the objective, which is Bastu Nirdesh, defining the objective. Offering benedictions, Asirbad, and Namaskar, and offering obeisances. So Asirbad, you can see many deities, especially of Lakshmi Narayan, or it's even the emblem of one of the political parties in India, is this, a hand like this. That means offering benedictions. That's Ashram. And the deity of Lakshmi, she's often shown with her hand like this, offering benedictions. So now we'll go on. Tritiya Shlokara Artha Koila Vivaran Chatur Shlokara Artha Shuna Bhaktagan. I have given the purport of the third verse. Now, devotees, please listen to the meaning of the. I've given the purport of the third verse. Now, all devotees, please listen to the meaning of the fourth with full attention. Anarpita charim chirat karuna yavatirna kalo samarpayitum unato jwala rasam swabhakti shriyam Hari Purata Sundara Duty Kadamba Sandipita Sada Ridaya Kandare Suratuva Sachinandanaha. May the Supreme Lord, who is known as the son of Srimati Sachi Devi, be transcendently situated in the innermost core of your heart, resplendent with the radiance of molten gold. He has descended in the age of Kali by his causeless mercy to bestow what no incarnation has ever offered before, the most elevated mellow of devotional service, the mellow of conjugal love. This is a quotation from Vidagdha Madhava, drama compiled and edited by Srila Rupa Goswami, and it's also the fourth verse. And as I said, one of the purposes, Asirvad, to offer benedictions, and that's what this verse is doing. May the Supreme Lord, who is known as the son of Srimati Sachi Devi, that's Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that may he be transcendentally situated in the innermost core of your heart. Resplendent with the radiance of molten gold, he has descended in the age of Kali by his causeless mercy to bestow what no incarnation has ever offered before, the most elevated mellow of devotional service, the mellow of conjugal love. Well, that means that when the Lord comes, when Krishna comes, he engages in confidential loving exchanges with his devotees. And that is all the way, as I said, Shanta, neutrality, Dasya, servitude, Vatsalya, parenthood, but it also includes what's mentioned here, madhurya rasa. So then what this verse is saying is that Krishna engaged in all these different rasas with his devotees. But what is the worship of Radha and Krishna is not understood generally. So Mahaprabhu came 500 years ago, and he, the Lord himself, and he showed all these different relationships with Krishna all the way up to madhurya rasa, which is the relationship with the Lord as a lover. So he's giving some understanding of this, Mahaprabhu, by his devotion and his activities. And one thing we were mentioning yesterday, which should be understood, that all these things are understood by Mahaprabhu, the relationship with the Lord, by service and separation, which is called vipralamba. We're not acting as if we are intimate associates of the Lord. That's what the sahajas or the pretenders do. Those persons who take these activities to be mundane. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives an explanation of all this as the acharya, as the teacher, as the guru. He gives all these relationships with the Lord up to the most confidential relationship of madhurya rasa. Purna Bhagavan Krishna Brajendra Kumar Goloke Brajera Saha Nitya Bihar. Lord Krishna, the son of the king of Braja, is the Supreme Lord. He eternally enjoys transcendental pastimes in his eternal abode, Goloka, which includes Brajadam. Purport. In the previous chapter, it has been established that Krishna, the son of Brajendra, the king of Braja, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead with 6 opulences. He eternally enjoys transcendentally variegated opulences on his planet, which is known as Goloka, which is spiritual world. The eternal pastimes of the Lord in the spiritual planet, Krishna Loka, are called aprakrita. aprakrita, or unmanifested. Pastimes aprakita, or unmanifested pastimes, or we'll say aprakrita. Pastimes because they are beyond the purview of the conditioned souls. Lord Krishna is always present everywhere, but when he is not present before our eyes, he is said to be aprakrita, or unmanifested. Brahmara ekadine tiho ekbar avatirna hoya koren prakata bihar. Once in a day of Brahma, the Lord descends to this world to manifest his transcendental pastimes. Satya Treta Dwapara Kali Chari Juga Jani Se Chari Juge Dibya Ek Jugamani. We know that there are 4 ages, yugas, namely Satya, Treta, Dwapara, and Kali. These 4 together constitute one Divya Yuga. Ekatara Chatur Juge Ek Manvantar Choda Manvantara Brahmar Divasabitar. 71 Divya Yugas constitute one Manvantar. There are 14 Manvantars in one day of Brahma. Purport of Manvantar is the period controlled by one Manu. The reign of 14 Manus equals the length of one day, 12 hours in the life of Brahma, and the night of Brahma is of the same duration. These calculations are given in the authentic astronomy book known as Surya Siddhanta. A Bengali translation of this book was compiled by the great professor of astronomy and mathematics, Bimal Prasad Datta, later known as Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami, who was our merciful spiritual master. He was honored with the title Siddhanta Saraswati for translating the Surya Siddhanta, and the title Goswami Maharaj was added when he accepted sannyas, the renounced order of light. Vaishnavata nam e saptamanvantar. Oh, pardon me. Mas. Okay. Vaibhasvata nam e saptamanvantar sataisha chatur yuge tahar antar. The present Manu, who is the 7th, is called Vaibhasvata, the son of Vivasvan. 27 Divya Yugas, which is 27 times 4,300,000 solar years of his age, have now passed. The names of the 14 Manus are as follows: Swayambhuva, Svarochisha, Uttama, Tamasa, Raivata, Chakshusha, Vaibhasvata, Savarni, Daksha Savarni, Brahma Savarni, Dharma Savarni, Rudra Putra or Rudra Savarni, Rocha or Deva Savarni, and Boltyaka or Indra Savarni. Now, what I'm reading, this time in the reading, I'm reading all the purports. And what Srila Prabhupada's doing is he's presenting a translation and a summary of the commentaries of the Vaishnava scholars who are explaining the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Now, I'll compare their explanations to the work presented by a research scholar. So there's a lot of information in these explanations, and some of it's not readily understood because it's scholastic. But at the same time, if you were doing a research project, you would go and you would read all the explanations about a particular subject. And that's what's being presented here. Now, sometimes I wouldn't read all the purports because sometimes the purports are long and they're detailed. But this time, to give proper honor to Srila Prabhupada, I'm reading all the purports. So some of them may be pages and pages long, and it may be even, what can I say, difficult for the reader or the listener to understand all these things. But on this particular reading, many times before I'd read the Chaitanya Charitamrita and not had not presented all the purports. But this time I became determined to do it because I want this reading to be a little more complete. So now the time of Lord Brahma's day, just his day, is what is it's 4,300,000 years times 1,000, I believe. So that would be 4,300,000,000 years, one day. So then within that day there are different incarnations, and there are different manvantars like Manu manvantars. So that this time period in which is called Vaivasvata Manu, is the Manu of this time period. Aštavimsa chaturjuge dwarparera sheshe brajera sahite hoi krishnana prakashe. At the end of the Dwarpara Yuga of the 28th Divya Yuga, Lord Krishna appears on earth with the full paraphernalia of his eternal Brajadam. Now is the term of Vaivasvata Manu, during which Lord Chaitanya appears. First, Lord Krishna appears at the close of the Dwarpara Yuga of the 28th Divya Yuga, and then Lord Chaitanya appears in the Kali Yuga of the same Divya Yuga. Lord Krishna and Lord Chaitanya appear once in each day of Brahma, or once in 14 manvantaras, each of 71 Divya Yugas in duration. From the beginning of Brahma's day of 4,300,000,000 years, 6 Manus appear and disappear before Lord Krishna appears. Thus, 1,975,320,000 years of the day of Brahma elapse before the appearance of Lord Krishna. This is an astronomical calculation according to solar years. Dasya Sakya Vatsaya Shringara Chariras Charibhavera Bhakta Jata Krishna Tarabas. Servitude, Dasya, friendship, Sakya, parental affection, Vatsalya, and conjugal love, Shringara, are the 4 transcendental mellows, rasas, by the devotee of the 4 transcendental rasas. By the devotees who cherish these 4 mellows, Lord Krishna is subdued. So it refers here to conjugal love as Shringara. It's also called madhurya ras. Madhurya means sweetness, and Shringara means relationship between lovers. That's Shringara. Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Shringara are the transcendental modes of loving service to the Lord. Shantaras, or the neutral stage, is not mentioned in this verse because although in Shantaras one considers the absolute truth, the sublime great, one does not go beyond that conception. In other words, there's not a personal relationship of service to the Lord. That's Shantaras. Shantaras is a very grand idea for materialistic philosophers, but such idealistic appreciation is only the beginning. It is the lowest among the relationships in the spiritual world. Shantaras is not given much importance because as soon as there is a slight understanding between the knower and the known, active, loving, transcendental reciprocations and exchanges begin. Dasharas is the basic relationship between Krishna and his devotees. Therefore, this verse considers Dasha the first stage of transcendental loving service. So, Shanta, Dasha, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Shringara, or Madhurya. So there's 5, but Shantaras is not considered an active relationship with the Lord because there's not service. So it's considering from the relation, although Prahlad Maharaj is said to be in Shantaras. But we'll continue with the understanding from Dasharas, and that is servitude. And that relationship of servitude continues in all the other relations. There always is service to the Lord, whether it's in Shantara, whether it's in Dasharas, or Sakyaras, or Vatsalya, or Shringara. There's always servitude, and then something more is built on each relationship. Dasha Sakya Pita Mata, Kandagana Loya, Braje Krida Kore Krishna, Prema Vishna Hoya. Absorbed in such transcendental love, Lord Sri Krishna enjoys in Braja, which is Vrindavan, with his devoted servants, friends, parents, and conjugal lovers. The descent of Sri Krishna, the absolute personality of Godhead, is very purposeful. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that one who knows the truth about Sri Krishna's descent and his various activities is at once liberated and does not have to fall again to this existence of birth and death after he leaves his present material body. In other words, one who factually understands Krishna makes his life perfect. And perfect life is realized in material existence. In five different relationships we share with everyone within the material world: neutrality, servitorship, friendship, filial love, and amorous love, between husband and wife, or lover and beloved. And that verse where it's Bhagavad Gita, that verse is Janma karma cha me divyam evam yoveti tatvata chaktva deham punar janma naite mameti sorjuna. Krishna says, Janma karma. Janma means birth, and karma means activities. Janma karma cha me divyam evam yoveti tatvata. If you can understand my appearance or my birth and my activities, and understand that they're all divyam, all these activities are divine. Janma karma cha me divyam evam yoveti tatvata. And if you can understand about those activities, then chaktva deham punar janma. When you leave this, chaktva deham punar janma. When you leave this body, chaktva deham punar janma naite mameti sorjana. Then you won't come back to the material world again. So these five enjoyable relationships between the material world are perverted reflections of relationships with the absolute personality of Godhead in the transcendental nature. So there's some perverted reflection of the divine relationships with the Lord that are also occurring in this material world. There's relationships of where one person has a relationship of service to another person, or of friendship, or of parental relationship, or of lovers, whether it's husband and wife or paramours. But those relationships also, perverted reflection exists, meaning that they're also going on in this mundane world. That absolute personality, Sri Krishna, descends to revive the five eternally existing relationships, which is mentioning also neutrality. Thus he manifests his transcendental pastimes in Braja, so that people may be attracted into that sphere of activities and leave aside their imitation relationships with the mundane. Then after fully exhibiting all such activities, the Lord disappears. So how do you understand those divine relationships? Well, they're understood by devotion. Through the exchange of devotional service with the Lord, then one can understand something about the divine relationships which exist between the Lord and his devotees. Yateshta bihari Krishna kore antardana kore mane kore anuman. Lord Krishna enjoys his transcendental pastimes as long as he wishes, and then he disappears. After disappearing, however, he thinks thus: Chirakala nahi kori prema bhaktidan bhakti bina jagatera nahi abastan. For a long time I have not bestowed unalloyed loving service to me upon the inhabitants of the world. Without such loving attachment, the existence of the material world is useless. The Lord seldom awards pure transcendental love, but without such pure love of God, Freed from fruitive activities and empiric speculation, one cannot attain perfection in life. So here, the translation is mentioning, without such loving attachment, the existence in the material world is useless. Now, within that statement, you can what's being said also is that the purpose of this, of coming to this world, is to be able to utilize whatever one, especially one has a human body, to be able to utilize that body and that existence in this world to attain a loving relationship with the Lord and be able to transcend one's existence on the mundane level or mundane. Sakala jagate more kore Vidi Bhakti braja bhava paite nahi shakti. Everywhere in the world people worship me according to scriptural injunctions, but simply by following such regulative principles one cannot attain the loving sentiments of the devotees in Brajabhumi or in Vrindavan. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he said, the religion of the masses is fear of God, that they worship out of some fear that if they don't do this worship, they'll be punished. But he says so the relationship of the masses is fear of God, but the activity or the relationship with the Lord of the saints is love of Godhead, or love of God. So here there's a reference to what is called Vidi Bhakti. Vidi Bhakti means according to rules and regulations, following all the scriptural injunctions. So people may do arti, for instance, like out of on respect to the Lord. So it's like present arti and doing this. 7 times. This many times. But people are doing according to protocol, according to some almost a mechanical following of these rules and regulations. But that is only useful until one can develop some stage of doing things spontaneously out of love for the Lord. Now, if one tries to imitate that, then it's called sahajya, imitation. But if one is actually doing that out of, one has gone beyond the rules and regulations, that is called ragmarg. So here it mentions Vidi Bhakti. Everywhere in the world people worship me according to scriptural injunctions, but simply by following such regulative principles, one cannot attain loving sentiments of the devotees in Brajabhumi, in Vrindavan. Aishvarya Gyanete Sab Jagat Mishrita Aishvarya Shitila Preme Nahi Moraprita. Knowing my opulences, the whole world looks upon me with awe and veneration. But devotion made feeble by such reverence does not attract me. After his appearance, Lord Krishna thought that he had not distributed the transcendental personal dealings with his devotees in Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya. One may understand the science of the Supreme Personality of Godhead from the Vedic literatures and thus become a devotee of the Lord and worship him within the regulative principles described in the scriptures. But one will not know in this way how Krishna is served by the residents of Brajabhumi or of Vrindavan. One cannot understand the doings of the Lord in Vrindavan simply by executing the ritualistic regulative principles mentioned in the scriptures. By following scriptural injunctions, one may enhance one's appreciation for the glories of the Lord, but there is no chance for one to enter into personal dealings with him. Giving too much attention to understanding the exalted glories of the Lord reduces the chance of one's entering into personal loving affairs with the Lord. To reach the principle of such loving dealings, the Lord descended. To teach the principles of such loving dealings, the Lord decided to appear as Lord Chaitanya. So Krishna has this loving exchanges with his intimate devotees. They're not doing things out of Vidi Rag. They have a spontaneous relationship with the Lord. In fact, they descend with the Lord to this world. But then Lord Chaitanya came, and he comes to reveal what is the nature of these loving relationships. So it is said that Lord Chaitanya acts as the acharya, as the teacher. Then Aishvarya Jnani Vidi Bhajana Koriya Vaikuntake Jaya Chaturvida Muktipaya. By performing such regulated devotional service in awe and veneration, one may go to Vaikuntha and attain the 4 kinds of liberation. So, by Vidi Marg, or by following rules and regulations, one can go up to Vaikuntha level, to the worship of Lakshmi Narayan in that world. But in order to enter in a relationship with Krishna, it cannot be done by this Aishvarya Gyan, knowledge of the Lord's opulences. One actually has to have a loving relationship with the Lord in order to enter into the worship and go to the place of Krishna's pastimes. Sharshti Sarupya Ara Samipya Salokya Sayujana Loy Bhakta Jati Brahma Aikya. These liberations are Sharshti, this is the Vaikuntha liberations, are Sharshti, achieving opulence equal to those of the Lord, Sarupya, having a form the same as the Lord's, Samipya, living as a personal associate of the Lord, and Salokya, living on a Vaikuntha planet. Devotees never accept Sayuja, however, since that is oneness with Brahman. That's a kind of liberation, but the devotees will never accept that kind of liberation. They'll accept these other relationships because they mean having a personal relationship with the Lord. In this case, the Lord is Narayan or Vishnu on that. Those engaged in devotional service according to the ritualistic principles mentioned in the scriptures attain these 4 kinds of liberation. But although such devotees can attain Sharshti, Sarupya, Samipya, and Salokya, they are not concerned with these liberations, for such devotees are satisfied only in rendering transcendental loving service to the Lord. The 5th kind of liberation, Sayuja, is never accepted even by devotees who perform only ritualistic worship. To attain Sayuja, or merging into the Brahman effulgence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the aspiration of the impersonalist. A devotee never cares for Sayuja liberation. Yugadharma pravartaimu namasankirtan charibaba bhaktidiya nachamu bhavan. I shall personally inaugurate the religion of the age, namely, Nam Sankirtan, the congregational chanting of the holy name. I shall make the world dance in ecstasy, realizing the 4 mellows of loving devotional service. So, Lord Chaitanya, he gives the prime benediction, especially for this Kali Yuga, which is called the Yuga Dharma, which is Nam Sankirtan, the chanting of the holy name. And by that chanting and by devotional service, one can attain the levels of servitude, friendship, parenthood, and lover. One can attain those rasas. So this is what these we can say are the external part of the external reasons for Lord Chaitanya's descent, to give the benediction of Nam Sankirtan and to give these confidential relationships with the Lord. And he does so as a teacher. His activities are those of the Acharya. So, Yuga Dharma Pravartaimu Namasankirtan Charibaba Bhaktidiya Nachamu Bhuvan. So we've read that. I shall personally inaugurate the religion of the age, Nam Sankirtan, the congregational chanting of the holy name. I shall make the world dance in ecstasy, realizing the 4 mellows of loving devotional service. Apani Korimu Bhakta Bhava Angikare apaniya chari bhakti shikaimu sabare. I shall accept the role of a devotee and I shall teach devotional service by practicing it myself. So this is what Mahaprabhu, his mentality is. Now, I'm reading here, and what Srila Sridhar Maharaj has said, he says that the beginning of the Chaitanya Charitamrita is a presentation which is called ontological. Ontological means that you have to understand who all the different personalities are and all the considerations before you actually start hearing of Mahaprabhu's divine pastimes, which would actually begin in the 13th chapter of the Adi-lila. Before that, there's much information given here, especially in the early chapters, which is ontological, which is explanation, which is understanding who all the persons, what is the real identity of all these persons that appear with the Lord. Like the first expansion of Krishna is Balaram. So Balaram, that is Nityananda Prabhu. Then Advaita Acharya is Mahavishnu. So then you can understand, when you understand who all these different personalities are, then we enter into the pastimes of the Lord. So I would say, and as I'm reading all these explanations, they include a lot of information, but that's what Srila Sridhar Maharaj has said. The beginning of the Chaitanya Charitamrita is presenting many ontological considerations. So Mahaprabhu is thinking, I shall accept the role of a devotee and I shall teach devotional service by practicing it myself. When one associates with a pure devotee, he becomes so elevated that he does not aspire even for Sharshti, Sarupya, Samipya, or Salokya, because he feels that such liberation is a kind of sense gratification. Pure devotees do not ask anything from the Lord for their personal benefit. Even if offered personal benefits, pure devotees do not accept them, because their only desire is to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead by transcendental loving service. No one but the Lord himself can teach the highest form of devotional service. Therefore, when the Lord took the place of the incarnation of Kali Yuga to spread the glories of chanting Hare Krishna, the symptoms of worship recommended in this age, he also distributed the process of devotional service performed on the platform of transcendental spontaneous love. To teach the highest principles of spiritual life, the Lord himself appeared as a devotee in the form of Lord Chaitanya. And by presenting also all these explanations, we can say that there's a lot of this presentation with the explanations will be very didactic. It will be very, it's very involved, and it's also some of the considerations, especially the purports, are very scholarly. They're quoting many scriptures. So, and also, then some work in presenting this is also due to the presentation of the editors. Now, in many of the verses and many of the explanations, you'll hear the term Supreme Personality of Godhead, which is also a little, that refers to Krishna, refers to Mahaprabhu. But sometimes it's liberally included in the purports, somewhat by the discretion of the editors. So that and the term transcendental, which they'll often use. But I actually like reading the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and this is the essential work on Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There's also the Chaitanya Bhagavat, which we just read over the last number of months. These are the two principal works on Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Apanena koile dharma, shikana najai, eta siddhanta gita, bhagavate gai. Unless one practiced devotional service himself, he cannot teach it to others. This conclusion is indeed confirmed throughout the Gita and Bhagavatam. So, this is the thinking of Mahaprabhu. I shall accept the role of a devotee and I shall teach devotional service by practicing it myself. Unless one practices devotional service himself, he cannot teach it to others. This conclusion is indeed confirmed throughout the Gita. So we have, we have example of this, that in order to teach something, you have to do it yourself. Now, I remember when I was growing up, sometimes my father would tell me not to smoke. My father was a dedicated smoker himself. So, his asking me not to smoke, he didn't show it by his own example. And then later, when I was smoking, he told me, all right, but you buy your own cigarettes and don't take my cigarettes. He told me. And that was when I was fairly young, maybe 16 or something. Although we all smoked before then, but here Mahaprabhu is saying, unless one practices devotion himself, he cannot teach it to others. This conclusion is indeed confirmed throughout the Gita and Bhagavatam. So why is that also important? Because Krishna came and he had his loving devotional relationships with his confidential devotees, but he never taught devotion. He just engaged in loving relationships with his devotees, but he didn't act as a teacher. Mahaprabhu is the teacher that comes to give what Krishna came and showed, and what Krishna gave in a confidential way. Mahaprabhu is giving by his teachings and by his own activities of showing everything as a devotee, not as the Lord, but showing himself as a devotee. Then this is from Gita. Yada idharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyutanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamiyaham. Whenever and wherever there is the decline in religious practice, O descendant of Bharata, and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I descend myself. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chaduskritam dharma samstapanartaya sambhavami yuge yuge. To deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to reestablish the principles of religion, I myself appear millennium after millennium. So these are verses from the Bhagavad Gita. And in certain ages, the Lord descends as Vishnu or other incarnations, and he maybe annihilates the demons. But in Kali Yuga, the Lord descends as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and his annihilation of the demons is to change the heart of the demons into devotees, or to change the heart of persons into devotees. That's the annihilation of demons is not occurring by sword or gun or anything like that. It's occurring by the Lord's mercy, which he's giving to persons to be able to, change their vision. I remember Srila Govinda Maharaj, when he was in Mexico, he spoke at a symposium of religions, and he spoke very nicely, and afterwards there was a television interview with a translation into Spanish, but they asked him this question. They said, what is your opinion or your view of the Catholic Church? So he had spoken at a symposium of religion, and then afterwards there was a television interview, and one of the questions was, what is your view or what is your opinion of the Catholic Church? And obviously that's somewhat of a loaded question, because you're in Mexico where, I don't know, 90-some% of the people are Catholic. So they asked him, what is your view of the Catholic Church? And Srila Govinda Maharaj, he said, all religions are trying to do good for the people by elevating them from the stage of gross material existence to a spiritual vision of life. That's what he told. I thought it was a very good answer, because he was saying, what is your view of the Catholic Church? All religions are trying to do good for the people by elevating them from the level of gross materialism to a spiritual vision of life. And that also we're feeling, in the sense that there may be many atheists and there may be people who speak against organized religion. But if someone is actually honest with himself, at least they'll have to come to the conclusion that life itself is, maybe, at best maybe they'll say it's mystical or unknown. You can't understand all the intricacies of life. But, somebody may not be religious, but at least they may be able to come to that level of understanding that life itself is a spiritual experience. Now, somebody who can't come to that conclusion, all right, maybe next time around. All right.
Maharaj, I just want to let you know Kelly's leaving, and I told her that she should say goodbye to you and the devotees before she goes.
Nice to meet you. I'm glad.
Wonderful to meet you, and it's been such an enchanting, almost 24 hours, so I'm just so grateful.
Okay. Maybe sometime we'll meet again.
I hope so. I definitely, I'll come back. I'll
Okay.
come back. I'm going to go see my 94-year-old mother, so I want to make a way
Okay.
to her. So, but anyway, thank you so much. And,
Okay.
see you soon.
Whatever.
Maharaj can come to Ojai sometime.
Yes.
You're always welcome in Ojai.
Yeah, so I don't know if we have any spiritual capacity to give any blessings, but if we do, blessings to you and your mother.
Oh, thank
Okay.
you so much.
Okay.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Okay. Is Mark going?
No, we're just
Okay.
walking her to her car over that.
Okay. I'm about. All right. Jugadharma. Let's see. Okay, here. To deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to reestablish the principles of religion, I myself appear millennium after millennium. Utsidayor ime loka nakuryam karma chedaham sankarasya chakartasham upahanyam ima prajaha. If I did not show the proper principles of religion, all these worlds would fall into ruin. I would be the cause of unwanted population and would spoil all these living beings. This is expressing that there's some purpose in life, and and Mahaprabhu is saying, if I did not show the proper principles of religion, all these worlds would fall into ruin. I would be the cause of unwanted population and would spoil all these living beings. Yad yad acharati shreshtas tattad evetara janaha sayat pramanam kurute lokastad anuvartate. Whatever actions a great man performs, common people follow. And whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. So that's a verse from Bhagavad Gita. Whatever actions a great man performs, common people follow. And whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. So that's obvious. What's the obvious example in the West? Christianity. And what are people following? They're following the teaching given by Christ. So whatever actions a great man performs, and somebody can say, well, Christ is divine, but all right. But the verse is referring to the actions of a great person. or so we could say, whatever actions a great person performs, common people follow. And whatever standards are set by that person, by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. Whatever actions a great man performs, common people follow, and whatever standards he sets by exemplary acts, all the world pursues. Yuga dharma pravartana hoy amsha hoite amavina anye nare braja premadite. My plenary portions can establish the principles of religion for each age, but no one but me, however, can bestow the kind of loving service performed by the residents of Braja. Braja, as I said, Vrindavan. By the Lord's, no one, however, but me can bestow the kind of loving service performed by the residents of Braja, means the Lord's intimate devotees, because all their relationships are with the Lord. So only the Lord can show their relationships, because they're all those relationships are towards Him. Srila Srila Maharaj says, reality is by itself and for itself. So that's a quote, I believe, from Hegel. But it refers to the Lord. The Lord is by Himself and for Himself, in the sense that He's the cause of all causes, sarva karana karanam. He's the cause of all causes, and everything is, all relationships are flowing towards the Lord as the center. All the relationships are coming to the Lord. Sanvantara Bahava Pankaja Namasya Sarvato Badra Krishnad Anya Kova Latsav Api Prema No Bhavati. So Sanvantara Bahava Pankaja Nabasya Sarvato Badra Krishnad Anya Kova Latas Vapi Prema Dobhavati. There may be many all-auspicious incarnations of the personality of Godhead, but who other than Lord Sri Krishna can bestow love of God upon the surrendered souls? This quotation from the writings of Bilva Mangal Thakur is found in the Laghu Bhagavatamrita. The Laghu Bhagavatamrita is, I believe, by Sanatana Goswami explanation of the, I believe it's Srimad Bhagavatam. I believe it's Sanatana Goswami. And this verse by Bilva Mangal Thakur is included in his explanation. There may be many all auspicious incarnations of the personality of Godhead, but who other than Lord Sri Krishna can bestow love of God upon the surrendered souls? I should probably, somebody can look up actually what Laghu Bhagavatamrita. I believe it's an explanation of the 10th canto, but I'm not really sure of that. Tahate apana bhakta gana kori sange prativite avatari korimu nana range. Therefore, in the company of my devotees, I shall appear on earth and perform various colorful pastimes. Etabhave kali kale pratama sanjay avatirna hoila Krishna apani nadi jai. Thinking thus, the personality of God as Sri Krishna himself descended at Nadia early in the age of Kali. So early, Krishna appearing in Nadia refers to Mahaprabhu. Nadia is Bengal. And the Pratama Sandhya is the beginning of the age. According to astronomical calculation, age is divided into 12 parts. The first of these 12 divisions is known as the Pratama Sandhya. The Pratama Sandhya and Sesh Sandhya, the last division of the preceding age, form the junction of the two ages. According to the Surya Siddhanta, the Pratama Sandhya of Kali Yuga lasts 36,000 solar years. Lord Chaitanya appeared in the Pratama Sandhya after 4,586 solar years of Kali Yuga had passed. In other words, according to our calculation, he appeared in the Lord Chaitanya appeared in the year 1486, which is 4,586 years of Kali Yuga had passed. So Kali Yuga begins approximately 5,000 years ago. Okay. Chaitya Simhara Navadipe Avatar Simagriva Simavirya Simhara Hunkar. Thus the lion-like Lord Chaitanya has appeared in Navadip. He has the shoulders of a lion, the powers of a lion, and the loud voice of a lion. So he's that's referring, this is given, you can say this, that is like figurative. That, in other words, Mahaprabhu is very powerful. Thus the lion-like Lord Chaitanya has appeared in Navadip. He has the shoulders of a lion, the powers of a lion, and the loud voice of a lion. Say Simava Sukjiva Ridaya Kandare Kalmasha Ashirvad Nashe Jahara Hunkare. May that lion be seated in the core of the heart of every living being. Thus with his resounding roar, may he drive away one's elephantine vices. So this is all giving some benedictions to the readers. So I've been reading for a while now. I'm going to stop at this point, and we'll continue tomorrow. But now we'll sing Hari Haraya. And Jagannath Swami can play the mridanga. Softly. Softly playing the mridanga.
Sorry.
Okay. Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Jadavaya Nama.
Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Jadavaya Nama.
Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama.
Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha.
You can play the kartos. Okay. Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Jadavaya Nama.
Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Jadavaya Namaha.
Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Nama.
Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha.
Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan.
Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan.
Giridhari Gopinatha Manana Mohan.
Giridhari Gopinatha Manana Mohan.
Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra.
Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra.
Gadadhara Shiva Sadi Gora Bhakta Vrinda.
Radharara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath.
Jai Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath.
Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath.
Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath.
H.I. Gosai Kori Charana Bandhan. Jahoite Bignana Shabishta Puran. H.I. Gosai Jar Mui Taradas. Tasabar Padarenu Mora Panchagras. Tader Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanibas. Janame Janame More Ambilas. Echai Gosai Jabe Braje Koilabas Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Korila Prakash Anande Bolo Hari Bhaja Vrindavan Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Manja Iyaman Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyan Harinam Sankirtana Kohe Naratamodan Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare
Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare
Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare
Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Haribo.
Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo.
Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Haribo.
Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo.
Jai Saparikara Shishi Guru Guranga Gandharvika Giridhari Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajaka Charyashta Tara Sadashi Shimad Srila Bhakti Nirmalacharya Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajaka Charyashta Tara Sadashi Shimad Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajaka Charyashta Tara Sadashi Shimad Srila Bhakti Rakak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Satchidananda Bhaktivedanta Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Rupanuga Guru Bharga Ki Jai. Namachari Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Dasha Raghunath Shad Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Prem Se Go Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Vishvabaranya Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Ki Jai. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai. Vishvabaranya Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupad Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Srila Bhakti Kushamashram Maharaj Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Sri Navadip Dham Ki Jai. Sri Mayapur Ki Jai. Saparshada Sri Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai. Saparshada Sriman Mahaprabhu Ki Jai. Sri Koladvip Ki Jai. Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mat Ki Jai. Soquel Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Sevashram Ki Jai. Ganga Devi Ki Jai. Tulasi Maharani Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Go Gopi Govardhan Sham Kuna Radha Kunda Kalindi Yamuna Ju Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Sri Jagannath Swami and Krishna Ki Jai. All the assembled devotees Ki Jai. Gaur Premanande Hari Bol.
Bhakti Pavan Maharaj Ki Jai.
Jai!